Well, this is Alligator. I took a little longer this time than I think I ever have. I looked at my thing and I saw it was almost 3 weeks that I did the Pope Francis show. Um, and I've never, like I explained in there, I don't consider myself a Christian or any organized religion, but I do follow the teachings of Jesus Christ and the teachings of Buddha. You can't argue with either one of those guys. But it seems like this Pope thing is popping up again because they just announced a new Pope, and he's causing a controversy like Pope Francis did. And I think the reason he is causing a controversy is because he is following in Pope Francis's tradition, carrying it on, which means to follow the steps of Jesus. Now, there's a side of the aisle that's really was upset with Francis, of course, and seemed to be really upset with the new Pope. And the reason they're upset is because these two people follow in the footsteps of Jesus. They say that they are woke. Well, perhaps they are. But what is woke? When you ask somebody to explain it, they have a hard time. There's a lot of word salad going on. I can't explain what woke is. I don't know what they mean by that. But I know what woke is not. If you're woke, you're not a racist, a bigot, or someone dealing in hate. I think it was it that Taylor Greene lady from Georgia who said that Jesus' Sermon on the Mount, that he was wrong. She said he was woke. Now, turn in your Christian credentials, because to be a Christian literally means that you follow the path of Jesus Christ. Now, if you're going to take one of his most important speeches and say he was wrong because he was woke, I probably agree with you. I guess probably one of the most, for the definition that they use for woke, one of the most woke people in history would have been Jesus Christ. But anyway, I've always, if you've been to any of my shows, you know that I love all kinds of music. All kinds of music. I'm the closest thing to a mentor of mine. Some of you might know about him, Gatemouth Brown. Gatemouth was like that. You couldn't pigeonhole the guy. He did everything. And I did an interview with Gatemouth in my Gator News magazine. And I had always admired Gatemouth Brown, but I never got to meet him until I was in Denver, maybe 30 years ago. Well, yeah, I don't think Donnie was born then. And I was playing at the Bluebird Theater. I think I was there on Friday night, and he was there on Saturday night. It might have been the other way around. But I came to his show. And then Homer Brown, who I did an interview in the Gator News also, he used to play saxophone for Billie Holiday and others. But he was Gatemouth's musical director. And he told me, he said, "Alligator, do you know Gatemouth?" And I said, "Well, I know about him." I said, "But I've never met the guy." He said, "Well, listen, you're staying at the Ramada Inn." "Yes." "No, this was in Denver." I said, "Yeah, I'm at the Ramada Inn." He said, "Well, Gatemouth is staying there too. So why don't I take you down and you can meet Gatemouth?" So I go in, and Gatemouth always dressed in cowboy attire, Western gear. So I got there, and I'm talking a mile a minute, because here's Gatemouth Brown, and I know we got so much in common, not just music. But I'm talking about the rodeos that I rode, and the cowboying and all of the whole thing to do with that. And I was talking a mile a minute about all of the stuff, the cowboy stuff, and all of the stuff that I've done. And I looked, and finally I realized that I was talking too much. Gatemouth was just sitting there smoking his pipe. The pipe always had tobacco and mixed with herb. And I said, Gatemouth, I'm talking too much. I said, come on, why don't you tell me something? You must have some stories about broncs and bulls, and tell me some of your stories. And Gatemouth laughed. He said, listen, Alligator, he says, I've heard about you. I've been hearing about you for years. He says, I'm really pleased to finally meet you. He said, but I'm going to tell you something. All of that stuff you did, the rodeos and the bull riding and all, being a ranch hand and doing all of this stuff, he says, Alligator, I never did none of that stuff. He says, I grew up in town. He said, I just wear these clothes because I like it. I like the style. And I said, you know what? If I had known you weren't a cowboy, I probably wouldn't have been as interested in you as I was. I always thought you were a cowboy. But anyway, I love gospel music. And I want to do it before I start talking about the Pope thing and all of this stuff that's going on with that. One of the most revered gospel groups of all times started in 1939. They were called the Five Blind Boys of Alabama. That tradition is still going on. 80 years later, the Five Blind Boys of Alabama have never left the scene. Each generation turns it over to the younger generation. And the only requirement to be one of the Five Blind Boys of Alabama is you got to be blind. They're all blind. And the newest edition, I ran across some of their music several years ago. And they had this one song that I really liked. It's called It Could Have Been Me. And I can really relate to that. Let's just do it. The Five Blind Boys of Alabama. Oh, let me tell you. I got this music store in San Jose that I get my music equipment from. I love them. The guys love me. They just take really good care of me. If you are in San Jose, go to the Starving Musician in Santa Clara. Vernon is a really good friend of mine, and all of the guys there, I love them and they love Alligator. Anyway, I called up one day and I said, I need a new fiddle. And they said, oh, Alligator, we got one down here for you. He said, why don't you come down here and get it? And I said, well, okay. I said, give me some information about it. He said, well, it's secondhand. And I said, oops. Now, what does that entail? He says, it's secondhand. It's $400 instead of $800. I said, okay, I can deal with that. I said, but is anything wrong with it? This is a joke now. He said, yeah. It's got two little tiny holes in it. I said, hold it. Two tiny holes? How does it play? He says, trust me, the holes don't bother the sound of the instrument. It sounds wonderful. I said, okay. I'm going to come and get it. So I went down to get the fiddle. And they told me it had two little tiny holes in it. Look at this. Does this look like two little tiny holes to you? Look. Two little tiny holes, he said. But anyway, the Five Blind Boys of Alabama let me do one of their songs called It Could Have Been Me. It could have been me, Lord, it could have been me. I thank the Lord for saving poor me. It could have been me in a wheelchair with no feet. It could have been me. How am I gonna get across the street? It could have been me living on those very streets. It could have been me with a family with no food to eat. It could have been me, Lord, it could have been me. I thank the Lord for saving a knucklehead like me. It could have been me, Lord, it could have been me. I thank the Lord for saving a knucklehead like me. Could have been me, strung out on crack cocaine. It could have been me, shooting heroin in my precious veins. It could have been me, Lord, it could have been me. I thank the Lord for saving poor me. I left a lot of my friends over in Southeast Asia and some of the other places, especially during my mercenary era. People who didn't come home with me. It could have been me whose mother cried so sad. Her son was finally coming home from the war in a body bag. It could have been me laying on my sick bed when the doctor walked away and shook his head. It could have been me, Lord, it could have been me. I thank the Lord for saving poor me. Could have been me, Lord, it could have been me. I thank the Lord for saving a knucklehead like me. It could have been me, Lord, it could have been me. I thank the Lord for saving a knucklehead like me. Could have been me. Oh, it could have been me. It could have been me, darling. Before we get started or whatever we're doing, I'd like to remind you that please hit the like button and the subscription button. It doesn't cost you anything. It only takes a minute, and it helps me greatly. Okay, so if you could do that, I would appreciate it. Thank you so much. The Five Blind Boys of Alabama started in 1939. Each generation turns it over to younger generation, but they must be blind. And here it is, that tradition has lasted over 80 years now. They have won 6 Grammys, a Lifetime Achievement Award in the Gospel Hall of Fame, and the 5 Blind Boys of Alabama have performed for 3 presidents. So I'm just giving a shout out to the 5 Blind Boys of Alabama. You guys keep that tradition going on. 100 years from now, we want the 5 Boys of Alabama to still be performing gospel music. Now, let's get to the new Pope, Leo, I think his name is now. Pope Francis, I've never been pay very much attention to the Catholic Church or any of the churches really. As a young man growing up in foster homes, I went to church a lot. In fact, believe it or not, I taught Sunday school. I told my brother that. I didn't meet my brother until I was in my late 60s or 70s or something. We were separated. All of my siblings, we were separated. I didn't know any of my brothers and sisters and all of them until later. Until old. We were all old, in our 70s and 80s. But he was a priest for 45 years in Pennsylvania. And when I told him, I said, yeah, I taught Sunday school when I was like 10 or 11 years old. And he says, how could you teach Sunday school when you're just a kid like that? What were they thinking? I said, well, they found out about me going to Sunday school. Whenever I would get up and speak, that the children all listened to me, that I had a way of explaining things. So they made me the Sunday school teacher there for a while. And they would give me the little lesson for the next Sunday, and I would go home and read it. And then I would come back and put the book aside and just speak. And like I say, but I've never been a part of any organized religion, and the reason for that is, I explained it in the one I did earlier, is that like Gandhi said, if Christians actually lived the teachings of the Christ, all of India would be Christian overnight. But we found out that you don't. So I've never really paid much attention to, the Pope was always, I'd make jokes about the Pope, comedy. The Polish Pope, John Paul, was the first time that I actually paid attention to the Pope. And when Francis came along, I really followed this man, because I was thinking, here's a guy who, hypocrite is not the word for this man. Everything he says and everything he does follows directly in the footsteps of Jesus Christ. And like I said earlier, when he passed away, for the first time I felt sadness. And I know that the one side of the political aisle did not like the man. They said he was woke. Well, like I said, the most woke person probably you could find would be Jesus or Buddha. They're both woke, if you want to use that term. But now we have the next Pope, and I was wondering about that myself. Is he going to go back to the old ways, or is he going to continue Pope Francis's legacy and follow the teachings of Jesus Christ? Follow the teachings of Jesus Christ. If you're a Christian, that's supposed to be what you do. But as many of us know, they seldom do. Now I know a lot of great Christians, believe me. My brother, for one, my foster sister Clara. I could name some wonderful Christians that I say are real Christians. But I've been in enough Christian. Well, I've been in all of them. The Christians and the I studied Buddhism for a while and blah 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 blah. During the '60s when we were all searching for God and all that stuff. I even studied in Tibet, believe it or not, with a nutcase, if you ever heard him, Lobsang Rampa. But the Pope now seems to be following, like Francis, in the steps of Jesus Christ. When Francis went to prison and washed prisoners' feet, which is something Jesus did, and I think he even reached down and kissed one of the prisoners' feet. This is a man who I couldn't make jokes about the Pope when he was Francis. You can't make jokes about that man. There was nothing funny about him. And now Pope Leo is showing that he is going to continue that tradition of actually caring for the poor, the downtrodden, the outcast, as Jesus would have done. But there seems to be people on one side of the aisle that are up in arms. They already, one lady, I think the lady out of Georgia, Marjorie Green or whatever the hell is, she's nuts. But anyway, when the Pope died, she insinuated that God had taken an evil man out of the earth and he was going to hell, in so many words. That was what she was saying. Just because he followed the teachings of the Christ. You can't find any fault in the man. So it's just odd the way our country is headed in some really dangerous directions anyway. I'm not going to get into all of that. I said I was going to stay away from the politics thing for a while. So this, I don't really consider this politics. This is spirituality. So I just want to give a nod out to Pope Leo, and I hope that he continues to be strong, continues to keep his focus where it should be, living the life of Christ. And any Christians or non-Christians or anybody who has a problem with that, you need to take a look in the mirror. And one of the things too that's really going to tick these guys off is he's an American Pope, the first American Pope. But here's what's going to tick one side of the aisle off, is that Pope Francis has Creole roots also. Creole roots. Meaning he's mixed blood. And having a Pope with African American roots does not sit well with a lot of people. But as a Christian, you're really not supposed to care about that. But, you got the Christian nationalists and the white supremacists and the, Nazis and all of those people. I put them all in the same bag, really. They're going to be really upset with this man. But what I say is, I'm going to follow him also and see how he does. Because, like I say, I don't call myself a Christian. I don't call myself a Buddhist or any of the leanings that I have. I definitely lean toward the teachings of Jesus Christ, since a child. But I don't call myself a Christian. I just say that I believe in the teachings of Jesus Christ. And my two, like I said in the earlier thing, my two quotes that I love, one of them comes from the Bible. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The golden rule, they call it. I don't want to be discriminated upon. I don't want to be treated harshly. I don't want to be treated unequally or any of that stuff. I don't want to be hated. So I don't want to do it to other people. And the other thing that I latch on to is my indigenous side. The Great Spirit says simply, live in a good way. Who can argue with that? We know what lives in a good way is. We don't need somebody to tell us what that is. Of course we do. So I'm just going to let this go. But I just want to say that I'm going to go back to what I call human interest stories. I'm not going to get heavy over into the political side of things. I could have a lot to say about the way democracy is being chipped away at, and how we are we were at one time sleepwalking toward totalitarianism. Now we are full steam ahead rolling toward that. But I'm going to leave that alone. This is Alligator in Alignment. That's all I'm going to say. I want you to, they're making a plan for me now at Friday Night Designs to help me to increase my viewership. They're coming up with a plan, and once they do, then we will implement it. But check out Friday Night Designs. If you have any media problems or any help that you need in the media, websites, or just anything, these guys handle everything. And the owner is a personal friend of mine. We are part of the same family, really. I'm an accepted part of the Reyes family in San Antonio, California. Joey Reyes was in my band when I was in Hawaii, and he played with me for years. And once I came and stayed at his family house with his mom and dad, they loved me and I loved them. And so I'm considered a part of the family. And the owner of Friday Night Design is one of the cousins. And he is dedicated to helping me get out of these lower viewerships, because I don't know how to do it. I'm not in the fast lane. The only way you run into Alligator in Alignment is if you hear about it from someone, or you just run into it, because I'm not in the fast lane. But I will be in the fast lane soon. So anyway, that's what I got to say for today. I want to wish everybody the best of everything. And all I say is, happy trails. I will see you later. Oh, yes. And don't forget, every second Saturday of every month, I'm in Monterey at the Bonton Elroy's Lighthouse Smokehouse, 794 Lighthouse Avenue in Monterey. I play a bunch of other places also, but this is my pet project and my home place. You know, I lived in Monterey for over 30 years probably, and I had to move once they sold the house I lived in. I live in the Bay Area now, which doesn't set well with me, but I go to Monterey as much as I can, because to me that's home. And I will be back there at some point as soon as the right place opens up for me. So until then, I got some human interest stories coming. I want to do a show on the Bonton Elroy's Lighthouse Smokehouse and let you know about the food, the music, and all of the things that we have going on there. It's a big party. Once again, Alligator in Alignment, happy trails. I will see you soon.